yours truly, Brendan Thompson, is back to talk about Morbius, the latest addition to Sony's Spider-Man universe, if that's what we're going to call it, and stars Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius, a scientist who is suffering from a rare blood disease. In an attempt to cure himself, he experiments with vampire bat DNA. So he tests this formula on himself. While this cures him, it has the side effect of turning him into a vampire. So initially, I was intrigued to see this film, and this was one of the few films that had been like pushed back repeatedly due to the pandemic, and the trailer for this film debuted about 2 years ago. It was supposed to originally come out in 2020, and like I said, it was pushed back due to the pandemic. And now that I finally had a chance to see it, well, it's a film. That's all I could say. It's a film. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I really wanted to like this movie, but I honestly found Morbius to be a very disappointing film. Mostly in terms of its script, it's a bit of a mess. I would say the acting is probably my favorite thing about the film. When it comes to Jared Leto as Michael Morbius, overall, I think that his performance works in some areas, and you do feel sympathy for him, even in the beginning of the film, because he's this scientist who is suffering from this blood disease, and when he cures himself and turns into a vampire, he has all these amazing abilities, but he has this uncontrollable thirst for blood. And when we get to that, when we see this action sequence, after his transformation, and he kills like 8 or 9 mercenaries, I think that's how many he killed. I lost count there. But he immediately regrets it because he has this uncontrollable bloodlust. So you do feel sympathy for the character, but that's about it, really, in terms of how much I cared about his character, because he has this power, but he views it as a curse. And that's about where it ends for me in regards to positives. I mean, Jared Leto's fine, but that's about it. He's fine. Now, when it comes to audiences wanting to enjoy a comic book movie, you expect good or decent action sequences, or at least ones that would blow you away. But in this film, you just get a bunch of shaky cam, poorly edited, multiple angle bullshit. The CG is terrible, honestly. Mostly, because when it comes to Morbius and his vampire form, and Matt Smith's character, who is basically the main villain of the film, when it comes to CG faces for Morbius and Milo and their vampire forms, there are some moments where it would look okay, and there are some moments where it can be terrible, because most of the CG is pretty bad. When it comes to Matt Smith's character, he's introduced as Morbius's best friend who is wealthy, but he has the same blood disease that Morbius has, and when he eventually tests the same serum on himself and becomes a vampire himself, he actually enjoys being a vampire, and there are times where he can be hemming it up with his performance, but his motivations of wanting to be a villain, he just wants to cause pain among others because of like how he has lived in pain for most of his life. I understand his motivations, but it's with the script, really. I think for the most part, I think his character Milo is a very badly written villain. Now back to the action. There are moments where, with Morbius just moving at like super speed, and there are some moments where it can you would have like a additional like slow-mo moment. It's almost like they're ripping off moments from The Matrix, and there's even bullet time moments. I'm just like, the Wachowskis perfected it in 1999, and it was perfect in 1999, and in 2022, why can't film studios just, I honestly don't know. I honestly do not know. Not only do the action sequences have like sort of Matrix ripoffs, but there are moments where you cannot tell what the fuck is going on because most of the action takes place at night or in some dimly lit area, and you have Morbius or his friend Milo. I mean, you have them like moving in super speed, and even with the slow mo moments, I mean, it looks horrible with the CG. And when it comes to like those scenes with the super speeds, there are moments where you cannot tell what the hell is going on. It's really frustrating. And when it comes to the mid-credit scenes, this is a bit of a spoiler, but that's when Vulture shows up because he's in the advertisement for the film. Because I mean, we see Michael Keaton, and I'm like, okay, so which universe is this set in? Because I mean, with the multiverse stuff, I mean, due to No Way Home, in the trailers we see references to the Daily Bugle. There's one cop that mentions San Francisco, which hints at Venom. And we see in one of the trailers an Oscorp building. I've seen this in theaters, and I have seen no trace of an Oscorp building unless I missed something. But I recall like not seeing one trace of Oscorp, so there's that. So in this mid-credit sequence of Adrian Toomes, who's played by Michael Keaton, he's Vulture, he's pulled out of the MCU and into Morbius's universe, which I'm honestly thinking, this takes place in the same universe as Venom's movies. But yeah, Vulture is in this universe, and he somehow manages to get his suit back. How he gets it back is never explained, or if he just made a spare suit himself. I have no fucking clue. He meets up with Morbius and suggested that they team up. When after that, I had so many fucking questions, and I was like, are they setting up a Sinister Six? And after that, I was like, okay. Tyrese Gibson is also in this film, and he plays a FBI agent investigating Morbius. I think his character would have been great if he had like more impact into the story, but I like Tyrese Gibson, but I think in this film that he's a little bit wasted. So overall, I have to say that this is not a great film. It's terrible, but it's not unwatchable. That's all I can say. I wouldn't go so far as to say this is one of the worst comic book films ever made, because I've seen far worse than this. It's not Batman and Robin bad, or certainly not as bad as Catwoman. So, yeah, that's as far as I'm gonna go. But, yeah. Jared Leto is fine, but Matt Smith, he can be a little bit over the top and can be hamming it up a little bit. And so, yeah. The action sequences are dull, and like I said, you could barely see what the hell is going on. The script is a mess, and the mid-credit scene almost makes no fucking sense. But yeah, I don't know what Sony is doing with their Spider-Man universe movies. As far as I'm aware, their next film will be a solo Kraven film, which I am intrigued to see, but I think Sony, for the most part, when it comes to making their separate universe, separate from the MCU, I think they feel a little bit misguided. So I honestly think that this definitely needed some rewrites, but someone somewhere thought that this was a great idea, and this is what we ended up with. I'm gonna give Morbius a D-. So what did y'all think of the film? Let me know in the comments below. And guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I'm looking forward to doing more videos really soon. And if you want my thoughts on old or new films, of course, you know where to find me.